Hello everyone, welcome to the Iconic Dollcast. My name is Sage. Welcome to the season 4 finale, my 2025 doll wrap-up episode. Today I am going to be talking about tons of doll releases this year. I'm going to be talking about quality control. I'm going to be talking about Bratz versus Barbie. I'm going to be talking about the tariffs, American Girl's great return with the Girl of the Year, and so much more. I am super excited. Thank you guys so much for listening. This has been a crazy year for the show. I put out new episodes just about every week this year, starting in the beginning of February. It has definitely been the most chaotic and busy year for the show, but I have had so much fun doing it. So again, thank you guys so much for listening, and thank you to all of the amazing guests I had this year. I loved talking with every single one of you. This is going to be a fully visual episode. So if you are listening on Apple Podcasts and you want to watch as I go, head over to Spotify or YouTube at Iconic Dollcast. The first thing I want to talk about before I get into any specific doll releases is obviously our country is in a very weird spot right now. Trump's tariffs have kind of taken over and has affected so many things, and I am fully aware that doll collecting is very low on the list of things impacted by the tariffs, but this is a doll podcast, so I'm going to be referring to the tariffs quite a bit. One of the biggest impacts on the doll industry is not only higher prices, but is also job losses. This year, Mattel announced significant layoffs, including the departure of a very iconic Barbie designer, Bill Greening. And while tariffs were not the only reason for these job cuts, they definitely had an impact on them. I feel like all companies are feeling extreme financial pressure because of production cost increases, especially because most of the dolls and toys and most everything that we love is produced in China and overseas. And when companies are put under pressure like that, they immediately try to cut costs as soon as they can. So we've definitely seen the impact of that, not only with the price of dolls and toys, but also with a ton of jobs being lost. But I am going to be mentioning the tariffs quite a bit in this episode, so I just wanted to address that really quick. But now let's get into some dolls. All right, so I'm going to kick things off with Bratz, and I really think 2025 was the year for Bratz. It's definitely been very interesting watching Bratz be reintroduced into the toy and doll markets. In my opinion, I think they have kept their quality up and their prices fair, which I cannot say about a lot of doll and toy companies this year. And they've also had a ton of product out on the shelves, and I have not been overwhelmed by it, which is also a really good thing. I would definitely not consider myself a major Bratz collector. I do have a few, and honestly, Barbie will always have my heart. But I've really loved what Bratz has done this year, and I think there are two very specific releases this year that have kind of solidified Bratz as a valid and valuable competitor to Barbie, and has definitely shown their ability to outrank and outsell Barbie as well. The first one is the Clueless releases. If you don't know, the movie Clueless celebrated its 30th, I think, anniversary this year, and somehow both MGA and Mattel were able to obtain the licensing rights for that movie. And I'm fairly sure the Clueless Barbies were announced first, but shortly after, MGA announced that there was going to be a line of Bratz dolls inspired by the movie as well. This really shook things up in doll world because honestly, in my opinion, Bratz really did kick Barbie's butt when it came to these Clueless dolls. It also brought back that just classic MGA versus Mattel rivalry that has been going on for years. I really just don't think anyone can deny that Bratz did this better. First, let's talk about the Barbies. To me, these are just so bland, and they are fully missing the iconic vibe of Clueless. We have very stripped back, boring Barbie faces. They just have like zero attitude to them, and I feel like Clueless, the movie, is all about attitude. Their outfits feel very cheap to me. I think these dolls were priced around $55 to $60, which fast forward to now, you can actually get these at some budget retailers like Ross, which is really sad because I'm guessing that's because a lot of people did not buy these. And honestly, it's very obvious why, because when you look at the Bratz dolls of the Clueless movie, these are just so much better. These dolls were priced around $70, which is a lot, but as you can see, you're gonna get a lot more for your money with these Clueless dolls, and you're gonna get a lot more attitude as well. These dolls were priced around $70, which is almost the same as the Barbies, but I think collectors were able to justify purchasing some of the Bratz dolls over the Barbie dolls because they just have better quality and they overall have just a much more Clueless feeling vibe to them. There's a lot of originality in these, and it also sticks very true to the Bratz brand. The dolls' costumes have layers, their hair is really nice, they come with a ton of accessories. The accessories definitely felt more intentional and styled than Barbie's did. And like the Barbies had like nothing special with them. I think she came with a phone and maybe a notebook, I don't even know. Where with Bratz, as you can see, these dolls came with a ton of accessories and they also came with an extra outfit, which is crazy because like I said, these dolls were pretty much priced the same. I think Bratz stayed true to their brand when it comes to, you know, big hair, exaggerated features, bold makeup. They just overall have so much more of a Clueless vibe to them than the Barbies did. I think Barbie just played it so safe with these dolls, and I think Barbie's goal here was to really create an on-screen accurate doll, which is fine. However, if you're gonna price something at like $55 to $60, at least throw some accessories in there. At least try not to be so lazy with the costume design. I do think sometimes collectors prefer screen accuracy over, you know, creativity, but it does not always work, and I really don't think it worked with the Barbies. I feel like Bratz really prioritized the feeling and the vibe of Clueless rather than just copying something straight off the screen, and I think it really worked for Bratz. I guess basically Bratz took a risk and Barbie did not. Again, these are just my opinions. I know not everyone is going to agree with me, but I did see a lot of discourse about this, and I think a lot of people would agree that Barbie was just so lazy with this release. Clueless is literally about fashion and attitude and campiness, and I just don't feel like any of that is captured with the Barbies, but it is captured really well with the Bratz in a very unique way. I feel like Mattel really diluted the vibe of Clueless, whereas Bratz amplified it. And I mean, this is something as Barbie collectors we talk about all the time. You guys know, if you've been listening to the show for a long time, I will always support budget Barbies because she's cheap, and that's fine. I love that Barbie has made herself accessible to almost anyone, but if you're gonna charge something for a collector doll like this, like $55, $60, $70, they need to put a lot more effort into this. And I never blame designers for this. I know designers have to work on a very specific budget and they are probably not given all the wonderful things that they would love to do with these dolls. So I really just blame the company the most. And honestly, had Mattel had a more reasonable price point for these dolls, I think I would like them a lot better. I think the fact that they were so expensive but still so cheap looking, it really just put a bad taste in my mouth. I do not like these dolls, but I just think this is the perfect example of why Bratz is having a really successful year and Barbie, in my opinion, is just kind of falling behind on everything, especially when it comes to quality, pricing, aesthetics, and just overall appeal. The second release that I want to talk about is the My Scene reproductions, re-releases, whatever you want to call them. And I know the focus right now is Bratz, but I do think that this was a very calculated release by Mattel. Obviously, we all remember the initial original drama between MGA and Mattel when it came to Bratz and My Scene dolls. I don't know, these just seem so forced and petty. Again, just my opinion. It's definitely not shocking that Mattel would try this when they are seeing that Bratz is having such a good year, but the timing is just not right. I know that My Scene dolls were very iconic. They had their moment, but it just feels tacky to me. And honestly, I don't think these My Scene dolls are selling as well as Mattel had hoped. I think this makes things way more obvious that maybe perhaps Mattel is threatened by the major resurgence of Bratz dolls. And so they just seem to be throwing whatever they can at the wall to see what sticks and what could compete against Bratz. And honestly, it's just not working. I also just feel like it shows such a lack of creativity and originality. You know, Bratz has always stuck to their brand and they are releasing new dolls all the time, and all the dolls look so cool and new and fresh, and I'm I'm just not seeing that with a ton of Barbie these days. I think the Barbie Bestie line is also an example of them trying to compete with other doll brands that maybe they are threatened by. Come on, these dolls are so boring to me. I apologize if you like them, if you enjoy them, that is great. But to me, these just look like an obvious attempt for Barbie to compete with Rainbow High dolls and Bratz dolls. They kind of just put it all in one, and there's just no originality in that for me. Of course, Bratz has had some hiccups along the way. I think one example of that is the Mean Girls releases. We all remember the disaster Mean Girls release that dropped last year, and I'm fairly certain in last year's end of year wrap up episode, I talked about how I thought that there would definitely be more Mean Girls Bratz dolls released, and I was right. And that's fine. I know people really love these dolls, but I think the dolls from last year just caused so much chaos. It caused so many people to panic buy those dolls for such an outrageous price, and it would have been really nice if MGA just was transparent and told everyone that more Mean Girl dolls would be released, because the meltdowns about those dolls were absolutely crazy. They did put out more dolls this year, and I think from what I heard, they were much easier to get than the last round, which is good, but they really should have just been more transparent with that. And honestly, I'm still very, very, very confused why the Bratz Mean Girl dolls have not had a wide release yet. I feel like MGA would make so much money off of that, and it just seems like kind of a missed opportunity, but it also feels kind of like a scam in a way to get people to buy these dolls immediately, and then who knows, maybe we'll be getting more next year. I think the Hello Kitty controversy from just a few months ago was pretty big for Bratz. If you don't know, Bratz is collaborating with Hello Kitty on some new dolls, and Sasha was noticeably absent from the lineup, which has not happened, I think, thus far with all of the Bratz releases. There was a complete uproar from fans about this, but to give MGA credit, they did release a statement, and it sounds like they are going to correct their wrong, and a Sasha doll is coming. So you can't be a successful company without having a couple bumps in the road. And like I said, I just feel like 2025 has been the year of Bratz, and they are ending 2025 on a super viral moment with these new Bratzies, which are Bratz attempt at their own version of the Labubu, which is what I'm going to get into next. Yes, unless you were living under a rock this year, Labubus came, they conquered, and then they fell away so quickly. I knew this was going to happen. This was such a trend-chasing item, and I know what you guys are thinking. This is the Iconic Dollcast. Why are you talking about Labubus? I have to talk about Labubus. I know it's not necessarily a doll, but it is sort of in the same toy doll family, and I mean, these things were so viral. Everyone wanted to get one. Everyone had an opinion on them. People were fighting each other to try and get these. It was absolutely bonkers. And like, it's pretty interesting to me because bag clips have been a thing for a really long time. You can go get bag clips of the Little Mermaid. You can get little mystery Disney ones. You can get mystery Barbie ones. They have bag clips for everything. I think the Labubu is a pretty original, unique looking bag clip. So I understand why people went crazy over them. But I mean, these were just so massive and honestly like pretty annoying. I did an episode on Labubus when this was all starting because I was literally so confused, because as a collector, I definitely understand the FOMO that people can get, including myself, when there's a new doll release or a new toy release and I want to get it. And I also understand, I think, the idea of a genuine doll or toy collector. And I feel like for the most part, the whole thing with Labubus was just totally a trend trap. I waited to get mine until my birthday, which was in September, and by September the hype on Labubus was really dying down. But I told myself in the beginning of the summer, like, if these were still around come my birthday, I'm gonna get myself one, and I did. It was $65, and I opened it and I literally was like, this is exactly what I thought it would be, which is nothing super special. Labubus were definitely way more about being viral on TikTok and getting a lot of views and followers rather than the true passion of the product. And Of course, I'm sure there are millions of people around the globe who actually really love these things, but for the most part, I'm gonna say people cashing in on the Labubu trend literally did not care. I think they just wanted to become popular, and it was very, very obvious. And honestly, like I said, as a doll collector or a toy collector, maybe you can agree with me. It just like really turned me off. It was just like people who I've known for years were like, I have a Labubu, I'm gonna get a Labubu. Labubu is everything. And I'm like, bro, you don't even care. You literally just want to go viral on TikTok, and that is a huge ick for me. And I also feel like a lot of people made Labubu collecting their entire personality because they wanted to be trendy. Hey, if you love Labubu in your heart and Labubu is your favorite thing of all time, that's one thing, but I just feel like for the most part, creators who were posting about Labubu were doing it in a very superficial way. And again, the trend of this has really died out. I am surprised it took Bratz so long to jump on these Labubu like Bratzies, and I do think these will have a moment. It's already viral. I think Bratzies are going to have a much more viral moment for a couple more months coming in 2026, but I do think it's going to die out pretty quickly. I think I read that the makers of Labubu have lost a ton of money just because people stopped caring, and the reason they stopped caring is because people stopped going viral over them. So people are literally wasting their money in hopes to go viral, spending hundreds, thousands of dollars on Labubu, but no one cares anymore. But you can't deny the impact that the Labubus had this summer of 2025. This is definitely something that would be iconic in like a time capsule because everyone was talking about them. Even my grandma, my 90-year-old grandma, asked me about Labubus and what they were. I'm surprised more companies have not cashed in on Labubu like bag clips like Bratz did. I mean, I could see Barbie making them. You can get all these iconic bag clips of Barbie just like this in her most iconic looks. Monster High, anything. But I also think maybe companies, since, you know, we've talked about the tariffs, they are cutting costs and they're kind of taking less risks perhaps. But yes, 2025, definitely the summer. I would not say the year of Labubu. I would say the summer of Labubu because these came, they conquered, and they just fell off the planet, basically. Next, I want to talk about Monster High dolls. I think Monster High dolls really thrived when it came to their collector dolls. I kicked off the year with an interview with Garrett Sander, who was the inventor of Monster High dolls. I've also had his brother Darren on the show several times, and I've never been a big fan of Monster High dolls. They just don't do it for me, but I understand why people love them so much. They are definitely a super unique doll line, and I do think Monster High tends to keep things super new and fresh, which is great. But I will be honest, after I interviewed Garrett Sander, he kind of told me about how licensing rights work. And I always assumed like if you design something like a doll or whatever it may, a toy, a doll, whatever, I feel like it should be like movies and music where you get residuals for that and you get licensing rights for that for life. I mean, you created it. When I found out that Garrett Sander makes zero profit off of Monster High dolls today, it really kind of bugged me. I'm not gonna lie, I don't feel comfortable buying Monster High dolls because of that. And I'm sure this is a situation with any doll or toy brand, but I do not like that. But I will say Monster High really thrived with their collector dolls this year, in my opinion. The first doll was the Alien Skeletor doll. I don't know much about this other than she looks super cool. I know people went crazy over this. I think it sold out almost instantly. And again, just like such a unique idea. I think this comes from maybe a TV show, not sure, but it's still a very cool, original, and unique doll, which I love. There was the Barbie Monster High. I almost bought this, you guys. I almost got this doll, but again, I just have been so turned off by the brand since I found out that the creator of the brand earns no money off of the brand anymore. But the Barbie doll was really, really nice. I know people are absolutely loving this. I think she just recently started shipping out and people are getting her. I do have a little bit of a regret not getting it because I think she's sold out, but very nice. And then we also had the Edward Scissorhands doll, which I also think was really cool. The quality of Monster High seems to be pretty consistent. I don't see a whole lot of people complaining about these dolls. Again, I'm not really in the Monster High world per se, so maybe I'm just not seeing that. But For the most part, for myself, I only see positive reactions to these dolls. And again, having Garrett Sander on the show earlier this year was a really great interview. Also, my top interview episode of the year. So shout out to Garrett Sander. And I hope you one day start getting residuals from Monster High dolls because I think you deserve it. You came up with the idea. But yes, the collector dolls is really where I think Monster High thrived. Okay, the next brand I am going to talk about is Disney. There were quite a few releases from Disney, from both Mattel and Disney Store this year. For some reason, I just feel like I did not hear as much about these dolls as I usually do. I am sure this is due to algorithm, science, and whatnot, but I wasn't hearing about these a ton. Definitely not like I have in the past years, but still, like I said, tons of dolls released. And just coming to my mind first, I think one of the Disney dolls that were released this year that had kind of a hard time were the Snow White live action dolls, and honestly the movie as well. They were definitely collector dolls. I am just genuinely surprised there wasn't even one Playline doll produced for this film. I mean, we all remember The Little Mermaid. So many dolls were released for that film, and I also think the past live action princess dolls have had at least a few. And I mean, here's the deal. I honestly, this is just my opinion, think that Disney had a feeling that this film was not going to do well when they were in production of the film. I think Disney had an idea that people weren't going to like this. So I am guessing because of that, they put like very minimal effort into the merchandising and promotion of this film. And I mean, they weren't wrong. This movie totally flopped. I do think the dolls that they made for this film are pretty nice. Mattel released 2 regular size dolls, and Disney Store also released a 17-inch limited edition version of the doll. Again, they are collector dolls, so they were definitely more expensive than something you would go and get at like Target. But there was just so much controversy about the production of this film, the actors and actresses in this film. But these are the Disney dolls that I remember a lot of people talking about, and it probably had to do with the movie as well. But I think these were probably a pretty big disappointment both to Mattel and also obviously the fans. Staying in the theme of collector dolls, there was something like 16 to 18 maybe collector Disney dolls released this year. I think the biggest uproar with the 17-inch limited edition dolls was with the recent Mother Gothel doll release. I know fans were pretty upset with the limited quantities of these dolls. Apparently she was super hard to get, but I also feel like Disney is probably playing things super safe right now. And let me just specify, I mean Disney Store with their dolls, I think they're being super careful and playing things safe with their limited edition dolls because I just don't think people are willing to go out and spend that money. I think these are retailing around $170 now, maybe even more. And I also feel with Mattel also having the Disney Princess license back, Disney Store is going to have a hard time selling their limited edition dolls and their dolls in general if they don't do some price adjusting. Mattel, in my opinion, has been doing a really good job with the Disney Princess line, especially when it comes to collector style dolls. I think they all look pretty great. And I think a great example of this is, so obviously we had the Mother Gothel doll. There was also a Disney Store limited edition 17-inch Rapunzel doll released this year. I think she retailed around the same price. And Mattel also released a set of dolls from Rapunzel with both Mother Gothel and Rapunzel. These are regular size dolls. Quality looks great. The molds are really pretty. Honestly, like, why would anyone choose to go ahead and buy 2 17-inch limited edition dolls for $170 approximately each when they can just go get this really cute Mattel doll set with both dolls? And I think these were $100. You got both of the dolls. So I think Disney Store is currently having and going to continue having issues selling these dolls. I have always said I prefer Disney Stores over any other brand. I think they do the best dolls, but I can't afford that. Most people can't afford that. So I think there definitely needs to be some price adjustments when it comes to these dolls. Otherwise, Mattel is just going to continue thriving with this line. Other than that, I really really enjoyed the 3-pack of the villains that Mattel released. I love to see the villains in doll size. I think it's iconic. I love that we got a Cruella de Vil. I did not have her, so I'm excited to add her to my collection. I can't lie that when it comes to the costume, I think they did take a cheaper route with these, but again, I just love to see the villains. I think they deserve just as many dolls as the princesses do, so it's always good to see them. I also really enjoyed the Disney Collector Once Upon a Whimsy Disney Princess dolls that Mattel released. I think these are really cute. They're giving very Disney Store designer dolls. I think the quality looks great. They are priced pretty fairly at $75, which again is where I think Disney Store is going to struggle with their line of dolls because they charge a lot more for their designer line. Why would anyone pay that when they can get this, which is just as good in my opinion? I think the packaging on these dolls is fantastic. It looks so gorgeous. I would definitely love to see more of these next year. I thought the 17-inch limited edition doll from the Disney Store of Yzma from The Emperor's New Groove is fantastic. She is such a underrated but great character, so I'd love to see her. I really wanted this doll, you guys, but I just cannot justify spending that money right now, especially with the way the world is at. But I do appreciate Yzma getting a moment. Like I said, I just really think she is one of the most underrated Disney villains of all time, and she's such a fantastic character. Disney is always going to be iconic. I can't wait to see what both Disney Store and Mattel continue to do with their dolls, and I just hope for some adjustments, but Disney is never going to go out of style. So, okay, moving into celebrity dolls, let's start with beautiful, gorgeous Aaliyah. This doll was definitely a struggle to find when she first came out. I know Mattel has done a few separate runs of her since then, but let me just say, when this doll came out, she caused complete chaos because no one could get her. I honestly was not planning on getting this doll just because I knew she was going to sell out super fast, but I did get very lucky. I think maybe like the day after she came out and sold out, I just happened to be scrolling target.com and she was available and I was able to snag one up, and I'm not kidding, I checked maybe like 2 minutes after I made my order and she was no longer available, so I felt very lucky. I would definitely say the Aaliyah doll had a very viral moment this year. So many people were on TikTok talking about how they went to Target, they couldn't get her, they tried to get her online, they couldn't get her, so I'm glad that Mattel has released more of them so more fans were able to get one. LeBron James also had a doll that came out this year that I heard was fairly hard to find, and I just love celebrity dolls so much. I always have. Stevie Nicks got a second doll this year, and I am sticking with my conspiracy theory that I think this doll, the mold specifically, could totally have been a Britney Spears doll. I think it looks a lot like Stevie Nicks, but also a lot like Britney Spears. Of course, there were several more new Wicked dolls that came out this year because of the new movie. Specifically, I really liked this music box collector doll. I think this was really well done. The quality looks nice. The dolls are beautiful. Yeah, I really do think that Mattel did such an excellent job with these molds. I think all of the dolls look like their characters. I think these are some of the better celebrity-ish dolls that I say ish because they're characters, but they are based off of the actors and actresses, and I do think these are some of the best celebrity dolls I've seen in several years, and I am sure Wicked dolls are a top seller this holiday season, which is great. They definitely had a much better rollout with the dolls this year than they did last year. No adult websites printed on the boxes of the new dolls. And staying in the celebrity-ish sort of lane of things, I want to talk about Gem. Gem and the Holograms had a huge comeback in 2025. I will go over my top favorite dolls of the year in just a bit, and let me just spoil it for you now. Gem is definitely on that list. A few years ago, I had my friend Adam Weatherly on the show, and he educated me all about the iconic Gem doll that came out in the 80s, way beyond the cliche fight between Mattel and Hasbro. Everyone knows the iconic story of how Mattel sort of allegedly sabotaged the release of the Gem and the Holograms doll with their Barbie in the Rockers line, but Gem is iconic. She always will be, and this doll by TLS Toys is really fantastic. I wouldn't call the doll a reproduction reproduction of the doll that came out in the 80s, but the box is definitely like almost the exact same thing. Absolutely beautiful packaging, and the doll came with so many cool things. The doll is articulated really well, and I mean the costume, the stand, all of the accessories are so cool. TLS Toys really went all out with this one, and the best part, you guys, is this doll was retailed at $24.99. And with a doll like this is a doll that I would totally be okay with and be able to justify paying more in the like $50 range, just because, like I said, she came with so many cool things. The doll is really good quality, so shout out to TLS Toys. You did a great job with this doll and its pricing. I also know people were so excited to get her. She was hard to get at first. I think you could probably head over to Walmart now and find her pretty easily. That's where she is located if you want to get one. Just like the Aaliyah doll, like her first drop, people were stressed they weren't going to be able to find her. I found her at a Walmart that I don't go to very frequently and was very excited. But while this gem doll is so fantastic, I really cannot say the same for this Carmen Sandiego doll that TLS Toys released pretty shortly after Gem, or maybe she came out at the same time. I got her later. My expectations because of Gem were so extremely high. I was so excited to go buy this doll, and honestly, she's not that great. The budget definitely went into the Gem and the Holograms line that TLS Toys is working on. She just falls really flat for me. It's like a more updated version of Carmen Sandiego, which I understand because that's kind of what they did with Gem, but she definitely was not as cool. Her accessories were not as cool. Her outfit's alright. I'm not really crazy about the doll's face, so Gem, fantastic. Carmen Sandiego, not so much. I do know that a set of Gem and Synergy was released this year. This was an exclusive doll, and I'm pretty sure there are more coming in 2026, so cannot wait to see what TLS Toys does with Gem. I think she's iconic. This was a great idea. Please keep her affordable. K-pop Demon Hunters came out this year. It was a massive hit, and there were no dolls available for this movie. Crazy. Mattel is releasing a deluxe set next year of these dolls. I have heard that Hasbro also has the licensing to K-pop Demon Hunters, but the fact that there were no dolls readily available to go on shelves right after that movie came out is so shocking to me. I guess maybe Netflix didn't think it was going to be a hit, but I honestly don't know how they would have thought that. The kids are going absolutely crazy over K-pop Demon Hunters, so I had to mention this. I just really think that's one of the weirdest situations of the year when it comes to doll releases, is that there were no K-pop Demon Hunter dolls ready to go because that movie is huge, the song is huge. Just makes no sense. So now I'm going to get into Barbie. I know I mentioned Barbie a little bit earlier when it comes to their competition with Bratz, and I also want to say, I know I sound like I'm being super harsh with Mattel when it comes to Barbie. I think this year Barbie has been the most impacted, and I also want to remind everyone, I think most of my criticism for Barbie comes with the more high-scale collector dolls. I do not judge fashionista dolls or budget dolls or playline dolls too harshly, just because I do know people complain that Barbie is cheap now, whatever, but she literally is. I've talked about this so much this season on the Iconic Dollcast, where it's like, how much are you going to expect from a doll that costs under $10? Yes, the tariffs have impacted that, and I did talk about this last year. I definitely this year was a lot less willing to pay for a fashionista budget line doll if she was more expensive than $10. $1, $2 really makes a difference, but I don't complain about them because they're cheap and they're supposed to be played with, and I think it's great that Barbie or Mattel has made it really accessible to get a Barbie. Almost anyone who wants one can afford one. As a Barbie collector who does and is willing to spend money on dolls, and Mattel knows this, I do think it's fair to criticize them a little bit more harshly than other doll lines because they put out a lot of dolls every single year and not all of the dolls are super great. This year kicked off with a bang of chaos when Mattel announced its Rare Find program, and that is with their deluxe style doll line. And basically what it is, each wave of these dolls has a chase doll, and it's a doll that is very similar to one of the other dolls in the line, but she is harder to get. As far as I know, these are exclusively at Target, but some of the Mitch dolls, which I'm going to talk about in just a second, have been showing up at Ross this holiday season for $8.99, which is crazy considering the chaos that came from them. Anyway, it's a doll that is similar to one of the other dolls in the line, and they are using classic face molds. And the first mold that they used for Wave 1 was the Steffi mold, which has been around forever. but specifically it was used for the Midge doll in the Life of a Dreamhouse line that came out in the 2000s. Midge is an icon. Midge is a legend. She is a very underappreciated friend of Barbie in my opinion, and boy was she hard to find. This doll really did kick off the year. She was spotted in stores in early January, and immediately the Barbie fans went on the hunt to go and find her. I myself had a semi-crazy experience with this one. When I found out she was hitting stores, I had the day off. It was definitely a Saturday, and I had some time to kill. So I went out to 12 different Targets. Yes, I went to 12 Targets in one day. I was out all day looking for this doll. I was not able to find her, but one really cool thing, and this is a really great example of when the doll community is at its best. People were finding her, they were sharing her codes that you could look up on the Target website to see if your store had her in stock, and it made things a lot easier to go out and find her. And I went to 12 Targets and didn't find her, but I did leave my name and number with a few of the Targets that I visited because it did say they had the doll in stock, but she was still on the truck. Luckily, the next day, literally the next morning at like 8:30 in the morning, the closest Target to me called me and said they had her and they kept her behind the desk for me, and I went and got her. It was very exciting, but I mean, everyone was talking about this doll. Everyone wanted to get her, and like I said, this one was super hard to find at first. It was just crazy, but it was also really exciting. It was really cool to see the doll community come together. There is a lot of crazy things that go on in the doll world, a lot of gatekeeping and a lot of kind of negative energy, but this was a perfect example of when everyone comes together to help each other. It really is awesome. Since Midge, we have seen 2 more rare find dolls in the Barbie Deluxe Wave sets. For the second wave, we got a Christy doll. This is the classic 80s, 90s Christy face mold. I love this so much. I was hoping they would use this eventually, and they did. And honestly, the Christy doll was a lot easier to find. I have mine right here. This doll does have a little bit of screening issues, but I don't really care. She is so cute. And again, I've always loved Christy. She's my favorite friend of Barbie. Sorry, Midge. But I love this face mold specifically. So this was a really exciting find. And it looks like we are going to get another one in the third wave of deluxe style dolls. And this is the Raquel face mold. And honestly, this one is not my favorite out of the 3. I think she's my least favorite, but I'm still going to go on the hunt for her. And it'll be really interesting to see if she is as easy to find as Christy was, or if she is as difficult to find as Midge was when she first came out. I have to be honest, I really like this rare find idea. I think it's really cool, but I also think that the Midge doll being so talked about really showed Mattel what Barbie fans were willing to do to go out and find these dolls, and I also think it gave them an idea of how much money they can make off of these dolls. So I think the exclusivity of these may be going down just a bit, which is kind of a bummer, but hey, at the end of the day, I am not going to complain about that. I would much rather have the doll than be stressed or annoyed that I didn't. So I'm really looking forward to see what the Rare Find program brings to us in 2026. When it comes to Barbie Playline dolls, another doll that I think was really talked about was the new Playline Alan doll. He is not very articulated, as you can see, but I really don't care. I can always body swap him if I wanted to, but I really love this doll, and I have to say I love it a lot more than the Barbie movie release that we had of Alan this year. I'll get to Barbie movie dolls in just a minute, but I really think this is probably the best Playline doll that they had come out this year. I know it's a top seller. I know people are really excited about it, and I'd love to see more Alan stuff come out. I think it's really exciting to have more than just Ken on the shelves. He was fairly affordable. I think this doll retailed at $14.99, and if you go to Target, they always have their Playline Barbies on sale, so I think you could go to Target and get him for a little bit less today, and I'm sure this one is going to be under tons of Christmas trees this year, which is really exciting. Another Barbie line that came out this year that I am really excited about is the new Barbie Basics line, and these dolls are pretty cool because they have a new neck peg, which is going to make it much easier for doll customizers and doll collectors to swap heads with dolls. This is a feature that I think is really cool, and I honestly hope that Mattel starts using these for all of the made-to-move dolls that they release. You're not going to have to boil their head in water, take it off, and worry about cracking the neck. So this is a really cool feature, and I hope at least it is something we start to see on all of the Barbie dolls. There's also the You Create line, which I think is pretty nice. And this is you get a basic Barbie and you can swap her wigs. I think you can swap her heads just as easily as the basic dolls. And I am really looking forward to seeing what they do with this line as well. Barbie has always been about creativity, and I love the idea of being able to get a set of Barbies and move things around and make it your own and be creative, be original. That's what Barbie has just always been, to me at least. I think without Barbie, I would not be the creative person that I am today. So this is also another very exciting line for me. And I also have to really applaud Mattel, not only for their budget stuff that I already talked about, but also for continuing to diversify their brand. It seems like every week we're getting a new Barbie, whether it is a Barbie with Down syndrome, or a blind Barbie, or a Barbie with diabetes, or Barbie with different skin tones and body shapes. I think it is really awesome, and I think all the time with Barbie, people focus on the negative, and it's not all negative because Mattel does really do some really great things to make Barbie more affordable, more accessible, and more diverse for people so anyone can get a Barbie and feel seen, and I think that's really amazing. So it's not all bad, but I think those are the lines that really stood out to me, plus the deluxe style lines as well. I think those are pretty cool. These dolls retail around $19.99, so they're a little bit more expensive than your basic fashionista, but they do have quite a bit of articulation. They're super fun to find, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more of these. When it comes to the more deluxe and collector style dolls, I do think there is quite a bit of room for critique and improvement. I already talked about the Clueless dolls. That was a big no for me. And the other one that I have to bring up is 2025's Holiday Barbie. Even with very low expectations, this doll is a huge disappointment for me. And honestly, in my opinion, it might be the worst holiday Barbie that has ever been released. She looks cheap and she is expensive. This doll retails between $45 and $50. And in my opinion, that is an absolute crime. They should never be charging more than, I think, like $29.99 for these, especially if it's going to look like this. And this is a situation where I really can jump on board and agree with Barbie collectors when they say Barbies are cheap and lazy with the designs. And it's not necessarily that I think these are bad dolls. I just think they are priced way too high. I do not think the Holiday Barbie is selling well this year. You can head over to Burlington and get a Holiday Barbie for $14.99. She went on sale a lot sooner than the Holiday Barbies usually do. And I mean, I'm just gonna guess, I don't know if this is true, but I just don't think these are selling. This doll has like nothing to it. Her face is bland, just like the Clueless dolls. There is no texture or depth in her costume. It is just like one piece of cheap fabric. It looks super tacky in my opinion. And I love the holiday Barbies. I think the holiday Barbie tradition is something that Barbie collectors, including myself, look forward to every single year. And it just seems like the quality has been declining every single year. Like I said, I really do think this is the worst holiday Barbie that has ever been released. But I just feel like the overall like classiness and elegance is totally gone from the holiday Barbie line. And Mattel really needs to rethink these because I really have been pretty disappointed in the last few years with these. I did get the new holiday Barbie just because I was able to get her for $14.99, which I feel is a fair price for something like this, but I certainly was not going to spend $45, $50 on her ever. It's just so underwhelming and disappointing. I know Mattel tried to mix things up by releasing holiday Kens this year, which I actually think is a good idea. I think these dolls were also priced a bit cheaper than the holiday Barbie, but not by much. But I have not seen these dolls ever out in the wild. I know you can order them online. I'm sure some stores have them. The stores in my area do not. So he was not easily accessible. I did not get one of these. So I am just confused why they would throw this out there if they weren't going to mass produce it and make it available everywhere. Maybe Mattel is testing out the waters. You're not going to get a lot of articulation with these dolls. And honestly, I think I prefer the Ken over the Barbie just because it's something new. But even still, it's just a disappointing year for the holiday Barbie and Ken dolls for sure. I think this is probably my least favorite Barbie that has come out this year. Very disappointed. There's also been several collector dolls released this year. I'm not going to go through all of them. One of them that I think really stretched with price is this Halloween Barbie. She looks really pretty. I love that original classic face mold, and I know people go really crazy over that whenever they're getting released, but I think this was like $185, $200 for like Honestly, not very much. Anyone with a sewing machine or even just a needle and thread could make this costume on their own, so I do think they took a super cheap route with these, and that's what Mattel seems to be doing with a lot of their collector dolls. It's like, they're not, like I said, they're not bad dolls. They're just priced so outrageously, and yes, I know the tariffs have affected things, but this is just not worth what they were asking for, and I know I saw a lot of people complaining about that and several other of the collector dolls released this year. Certainly, Barbie movie dolls have been so overpriced. They're always going on sale because I just don't think they're selling. So, I mean, that brings me into my next thing, which is Barbie movie dolls. It is 2025. It is almost 2026, and we are still getting new Barbie movie dolls, and the rollouts of these dolls have not been good. Starting with this double set with Barbie and Ken, people were really excited about these dolls because they both featured a new face mold for both Barbie and Ken, so everyone jumped on. These were made to order. They still have not shipped, and the kicker here is after people bought these, slowly but surely, more Barbie movie dolls came out that had this new face mold, so there was really no point in getting that first one, especially if you wanted to get these dolls quick. Not sure why those made to order dolls have been consistently delayed. I think right now they're expected to ship in March of 2026, but there is just Barbie movie dolls everywhere. The stores are loaded with them, but like I can't imagine that Mattel is creating these dolls and making more if they're not selling, but it is very weird to me because I could go to Walmart right now and they have just endless amounts of Barbie movie dolls, including a lot of the dolls that have these new face molds, so I don't really know what's going on with that. I am over it. The Barbie movie is iconic. It was amazing, but the amount of dolls that they are releasing from this movie is a little bit ridiculous. They're also priced pretty high. It is just getting a little bit redundant and expensive, so I am hoping 2026 sees a lot less of these. Again, I am sorry to be so critical of Barbie, but when it comes to money, I just really think Mattel is pushing the envelope and they really need to scale back on that a little bit. Like I said, it hasn't been all bad. I really loved this Van Gogh collector doll. I think she is absolutely gorgeous. This is definitely a highlight from the year, and I also, like I said, appreciate Barbie bringing back classic molds like the Steffi mold or the Christy mold. I think that is a really good and exciting move for them, and I'm gonna say it a million times, I will never not appreciate the fact that Mattel has made Barbie available and affordable to almost anyone. I think that's really great, and I really do love how they continue to diversify the brand. I also love to see Barbie continuing its collaboration with American Girl. So now we're gonna get into American Girl, which is a doll line and brand that I love so much, but also have some pretty fair, in my opinion, critiques about. Before I transition into American Girl fully, Mattel did release some reproductions of the iconic Peaches and Cream dolls this year, and I think Mattel always does a fairly good job with their reproductions. And these definitely got fans super excited, but along with the Barbies, American Girl also released 2 American Girl dolls in the Peaches and Cream outfits. Last year, my top doll of the year was the original 1959 American Girl Barbie doll. I was obsessed with her, still am, and I was so looking forward to see how American Girl would keep this collaboration with Barbie going. These dolls were much easier to get than the original Barbie American Girl, and they were priced around $300, and I think these dolls are fine. They are beautiful. They picked great molds for the dolls, and the costume is also really pretty. But I will say, and I do hope American Girl keeps this collab going, but I think from here on out, they should just do fashion packs. American Girl has so many Truly Me dolls that people can use for these Barbie outfits, so I don't think collectors are going to keep shelving out $300 every time they drop a Barbie. And I love that they did the day to night fashion pack last year. I think that was a really great idea. A lot cheaper than buying a whole brand new doll, especially if it's going to be a collector doll. So I definitely love to see more of that in the new year. I really want them to do a totally hair Barbie fashion pack for American Girl. They have these new Truly Me dolls that have really long hair, so that works out perfectly. But this year, before I talk about more releases, this year has definitely been my full-on American Girl Renaissance year, especially when it comes to thrifting. I also hit a pretty big milestone this year with my American Girl doll historical collection. Earlier this year, I received what I thought was going to be my last doll in the collection, Claudie, from my friend Kendall, so shout out to Kendall. And other than her, I was only missing the twins, and the twins have always been kind of a for me. I think having a historical doll in the 90s is a little bit, I don't know, maybe I just don't want to feel old, but I was like, I don't need them to feel like my collection is complete. But this year, really in the last few weeks, I caved because American Girl was having so many sales. So I did buy myself Nikki Hoffman, and in this box right here, I have my final American Girl historical doll. My grandma purchased me Isabel Hoffman for Christmas, but I am going to keep her in this box and wait a few days so I can open it with my grandma on Christmas. But very, very exciting. It's a huge milestone to finish my American Girl historical collection. I've been collecting them since like 1997. Josefina was my very first. So that is pretty exciting. And when it comes to thrifting, you guys, I am not joking. I found over 60 American Girl dolls at thrift stores this year. I don't know if Colorado is just littered with American Girl dolls or what it was, but I did find over 60 of them. Some of them I kept, some of them I refurbished and sold, but it was a really fun year for me when it comes to finding American Girl dolls out in the wild. Obviously, I do thrift most of my American Girl dolls because they are so expensive if you pay for them at retail price, and I really feel bad for anyone who exclusively collects American Girl dolls, especially when they are brand new dolls and they are buying them directly from American Girl, because it has been an expensive, exhausting, and pretty ridiculous year when it comes to American Girl and their collector dolls. I feel like out of all the brands I've talked about today, American Girl has pushed so many collector dolls onto people this year, and not a lot of them have been super great. From Disney Princess to Truly Me dolls to Holiday dolls and Wicked dolls, Wednesday Addams dolls. This year was definitely fully oversaturated with American Girl, and I do stand by my belief that companies right now are rushing to get as much product as they can out to everyone before things get worse, whether it be with the economy or tariffs. So I think a lot of products, especially with American Girl, seem pretty rushed. You guys know I did not like the holiday Barbie, and I also really do not like or appreciate the fact that American Girl is selling a holiday American Girl doll for a ridiculous amount of money when the quality is really not up to par with how it should be. Right now, I think Disney Princess and Truly Me dolls are really what is keeping American Girl afloat, and that's so sad to me because for me, growing up, they did have dolls that, people could get that look like them, but it was definitely never the focus. The focus was always the historical collection and the Girl of the Year dolls. But in the last, decade, I really feel like the historical line and the Girl of the Year line have not gotten enough attention, and they have been pretty heavily criticized, and for good reason. I think especially with the Girl of the Year line, they just have not done anything fantastic in the last few years, and it's been pretty sad to see the brand, I wouldn't say abandon these lines, but I mean, you get an American Girl magazine or catalog today, and those girls have nothing in there. It's all about the Truly Me dolls, it's all about Disney Princess, and that's really unfortunate. However, and this is going to be my last extended discussion topic for this episode, my 2025 wrap up. This year, the Girl of the Year American Girl doll, Raquel Reyes, was a huge deal, and that is because she is a descendant of the iconic classic Samantha Parkington, one of the original American Girl dolls released in 1986. Everyone had Samantha, everyone loves Samantha, everyone knows her, so I think this idea is a really good one and it has so much potential. This is a really interesting concept that I hope American Girl continues to develop and grow. I think Raquel has been one of the most talked about Girls of the Year in at least a decade. I know fans, for the most part, are really on board with this idea and continuing this idea, including myself. I am totally on board for this. I think this is awesome. If you haven't yet, I did interview the author of Raquel's books, Angela Cervantes, and we talked all about Raquel, how Angela got involved with American Girl, and kind of how the story came to be. It's a really interesting episode, so definitely check that out if you haven't. First of all, I mean, Raquel is an absolutely beautiful doll. Her accessories are gorgeous, and Angela was so much fun. She was so sweet to talk to, and I could tell this was a really big deal for her and myself as well. I will say, I do think the hype of Raquel was huge at first, and it kind of died down quickly. Even so, I do think Raquel is going to be a top seller for American Girl this year and next year. She is definitely going to be under a lot of Christmas trees this year, but the hype did die down pretty quickly. And honestly, I think there is a reason for that. And I honestly think the reason is that there is a very obvious absence of the character Nellie O'Malley in the Raquel books. Obviously, I don't have time to go through the entire lore of Samantha Parkington and Nellie O'Malley and Raquel, but Nellie is a major character. I think she is definitely the most favorited best friend doll that were released in like 2011-ish and quickly retired. People love Nellie, and I think the story of Raquel really revolves around the idea of adoption, and without, saying too much, and that is pretty much Nellie's entire storyline. So I think the absence of that character kind of affected how people felt about Raquel after she came out. And when I interviewed Angela, I didn't ask her about Nellie. I'm just going to be real with you guys. The conversation was so good and I forgot to bring it up. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I did email Angela after we had chatted, and I asked her about the absence of Nellie O'Malley and what she could tell me about this. And here's what she said. My focus for the novel remained on Raquel's story and her ties to Samantha Parkington, so that's what I focused on. Maybe Raquel's story will lead readers to explore more about Samantha and read her books where they can learn more about all of the characters that made Samantha's life so special, like Grand Mary, Uncle Guard, Aunt Cornelia, and Nellie, and of course the beloved Jessie too. And she said, I hope so, and obviously I think Jessie is mentioned, but I think that most fans were a little bit iffy about that, but I totally understand why. And I mean, it really doesn't affect things for me. I think the idea of having all of the Girl of the Year dolls moving forward being a descendant of a classic character is incredible. I think this could be huge, not only for the Girl of the Year line, but also the historical line. Right now, you can go get a reproduction of Samantha in her original form, and I think that is so great that parents can take their kids to the American Girl store, and the parent, if they want, can get the Samantha doll that they had as a kid, and they can get Raquel for their child. I think that is a really good move, and that is what I want to see. I think it's possible, hopefully, that American Girl is taking baby steps to reintroduce their historical characters to a younger audience. We had these cute little plush dolls of 5 of the original characters come out this year, and these are obviously made for a younger audience. And I also wonder if American Girl has kind of been throwing out random little things to people to kind of test the waters. I mean, we've had some classic American Girl historical fashions come back with Addie and Samantha and Kirsten and even Molly. We've had these plushies come out, and we've also had this huge release with Raquel for the Girl of the Year, who's related to Samantha. So I'm wondering if American Girl is seeing what they can get away with and what fans will pay for, because next year, you guys, 2026 is the 40th anniversary of Pleasant Company, the original company that released American Girl. And I wonder if all these products recently have been the company testing out what they can throw out for the 40th anniversary, which is a huge deal. One character that still has not come back is Felicity. And if you don't know, the first 3 dolls were Molly, Kirsten, and Samantha, and Felicity followed shortly in 1991. But the whole lore of Pleasant Company, Pleasant Rowland, the inventor of American Girl, came from the idea that she was at Colonial Williamsburg and she wanted to create this doll line that taught young kids about history. So Felicity really was the kickoff for this whole idea, even though her doll was released later. We have not seen Felicity in years, especially after the awful Be Forever disaster. I think a lot of people blame that on the fact that Felicity's books are kind of controversial. I'm not going to get into it, But I will say that with the recent Samantha release, Samantha does come with a book, but it is not her traditional Meet book. It's like a collection book. So it shows you kind of all of the collection that you used to be able to get for Samantha when she originally came out, and until, pretty recently, you can't really get a lot of Samantha's classic stuff from back in the day. And I am wondering if they are holding on to Felicity for the 40th anniversary, because honestly, I think if we don't see a re-release of Felicity this coming year, we probably won't ever. So this could be her year. I would love to see Felicity get re-released. I'd love to see a new plushie of Felicity, and I'd also love to see the next girl of the year be a descendant of Felicity. I think that would be super interesting. I think fans would go crazy over it, and I think they would sell really well. But it has just been a crazy year personally for me when it comes to American Girl, but there has been a lot of really promising releases that I think is really going to hopefully bring the brand back to its roots, which is the historical line. Again, the transition to American Girl as a podcaster and a content creator has not been easy, but I think I'm making my way there. I'm having so much fun, and I'm just really, really looking forward to seeing what they do in 2026. Before I get into my least favorite and favorite dolls of the year, I want to talk about a few doll lines that maybe fell under the radar. I think that Disney Illy dolls are really starting to pick up in popularity. I talked with Darren Sander earlier this year and later this year on the podcast, and he did the packaging design for these dolls, so I definitely am going to keep my eye on these. I think Naturalistas has a really good chance of having a moment this year. I just personally believe that this brand is not taking advantage of promotion. So if they could just pick up their promotion, I know that's easier said than done. I do think that Naturalistas could have a big moment in 2026. I thought the LOL OMG Powerpuff Girl dolls were going to be a lot bigger than they were. I'm not seeing a whole lot of discussion about these, but they could also have a moment in 2026. I'm pretty surprised that these weren't as talked about as I thought they would be, but I think they came out right as the tariff stuff was really starting to hit, and they kind of just flew under the radar. One brand that I did not get to talk about this year, but I'm hoping to in 2026 is Woofco. I think these are definitely more in the lane of Labubus, where they're not quite a doll, but they're kind of a doll, and I think these are pretty cool. Obviously, I had to get the Chihuahua, so I'm definitely interested to see what this brand does. I think there's a lot of potential here, but I also think it's definitely a hard time to launch a new doll brand, especially with where the country of the United States is at, but we will see. And now it's time to get into my least favorite and most favorite dolls of the year. I think we will start with my least favorite dolls, and two of these I have not mentioned yet on purpose because I wanted to save them for now, and this is my opinion, but I think a lot of people agree with me. The worst doll of the year had to have been the disaster Katy Perry doll. And listen, Katy Perry has had a rough year, more than a year really, and I just want to be clear, I don't really blame Katy Perry for a lot of the decisions that have been made for her career, because just like any other artist or musician, she definitely has a team of people working for her and making decisions on the regular and helping her make decisions, and there's just been some bad situations for Katy Perry. I will say I listened to the album, I think it's really good, but she's had a tough time, and the release of this doll did not help. I think there's definitely some more information about this doll. I think maybe I read that this kind of doll, I don't know if it was the exact one, was being sold at her Las Vegas residency for a very limited time or something. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, Katy Perry, she's having a rough year, and she decides to release a doll that looks so bad, and she is charging people $175 for it. I'm all for celebrity dolls. I think sometimes celebrity dolls aren't great, but also most times celebrity dolls aren't $175. This was a complete joke in my opinion, and I think all of us here listening or watching the Iconic Dollcast know that any of us could have gone onto a cheap website like AliExpress and purchased a 50-cent doll that looks exactly like this and literally made the costume ourselves in 20 minutes. Whether you have experience or not, this doll is so bad. And honestly, like most of the dolls that I've talked about in this episode, they are so bad because they're so ridiculously priced. I think celebrity branding is tough. Like, I want to buy anything with Britney Spears' name on it. And obviously they can charge more than your average Barbie or collector doll, whatever. It is a Katy Perry branded doll. Had this doll been like $50, I could totally understand that. Hey, she could have even charged maybe like $100 for them if she signed them. That would have been cool, but I don't believe these dolls were signed. The quality is so bad. Like I said, you could go on AliExpress and like, here's a great example. This is what her head looks like. This is what her haircut looks like. So obviously she doesn't have a lot of rooted hair. Hey, and to be fair, I know that when you're rerooting dolls or you're rooting dolls, it is a lot easier to only use a little bit of hair, only really reroot I know as someone who reroots dolls all the time, I know for an updo like that, it is a lot easier just to root like the perimeter and a little bit more so that the hair lies flat when you put it up in a ponytail. But I mean, for $175, girl, you could have at least had them paint your head black. Like, what the heck is this? I just feel like not only did it make her look bad just cause, like, it made her look a little bit greedy. And again, not just her, like the people who are managing Katy Perry's career, in my opinion, like, what are you thinking with this? I'm just so curious. If you are watching or listening and you got the Katy Perry doll, please reach out to me. I want to know your thoughts. I want to know if you think it was worth it. I want to know how you felt when you got it. Please let me know. But to me, just because, I mean, and this totally was viral. This was everywhere. What a disaster mistake. It is what it is. To me, in my opinion, the worst doll of 2025 is this Katy Perry doll right here. Another doll that I think was pretty bad, but does have some potential and has the right idea going is the Play-Doh Barbies. I loved Play-Doh as a kid, but before I even got this, I was like, I wonder how kids are going to deal with that, just because Play-Doh is so messy in the way that, like, there's obviously separate colors you're going to want to use to this, and Play-Doh mixes with other Play-Doh so easily. It's really hard to maintain, I feel like, for a kid. Like, you go into a preschool and you're gonna see all the Play-Doh is just like a bunch of colors in one. The kids love to play with that, so that's cool. And I definitely think this has a cool concept, and honestly, like, I think kids probably are having fun with this. As an adult, I got super frustrated with this. I think I even filmed an unboxing for this and a whole thing, and I was like, I am not putting this out. I did a horrible job, so maybe I just suck at Play-Doh. I don't know, but it was really messy. Like I thought it would. All of the colors were getting mixed because you use like one tool to do a bunch of different things. So colors were getting mixed and I was getting super impatient, and it just is like, the idea is almost there, but not quite. So I have to put this on the worst. I definitely wouldn't put this at like number 2. The only doll I am ranking really in this category is the worst, and that was Katy Perry. So this one, not as bad, but still, the idea just needs to be polished in my opinion. Of course, I gotta say the Clueless Barbie doll, I really talked about those for a while earlier. I really don't like these, and that goes the same for both the Holiday Barbie and the Holiday American Girl. I think these dolls were priced way too high for such low and little quality. Those dolls need to be fantastic for $55 for the Barbie and like $295 or whatever it is for the American Girl doll. Unacceptable. So these are definitely on my list. And I'm going to keep it short. These are just the ones that are coming to the top of my head. I would also have to say the Carmen Sandiego doll. And that's solely because I was just so disappointed in her because of Gem. The Gem doll just set my expectations so high. And when I got the Carmen Sandiego, like I said, I just was like really disappointed in it. The budget obviously went to Gem, and I'm okay with that. Lesson learned. I think I built my expectations so high, but that's not a total bad thing because I do think the Gem dolls are going to be huge and they're going to continue to sell, and we're going to continue to get more of them. So it is what it is. Carmen Sandiego had to take one for the team. I mean, really, the theme of this episode has been like, these dolls aren't bad. They're just way too expensive. And if you're going to charge that much money for dolls, The quality control needs to be there. The quality overall needs to be there. It's just missing for a lot of these. It makes me nervous for 2026, but anyway, those were my least favorite. Again, there's probably a couple others that I was a little iffy about, but I want to talk about my favorite dolls because I had a lot of favorite dolls. It was hard to narrow these down to just 5, and I will rank these. I do think I came up with a really good ranking. It was difficult. I think you guys maybe will be shocked by my number 1, but we'll see. At number 5, you guys, I had to do it. It's Labubu. Labubu had the summer of 2025. There might not really have been a song of the summer this year, but there was definitely the Labubu, the biggest trend trap in a while, the biggest viral trend trap in a while. But hey, I have one. I can't lie. This whole craze was really crazy, but still really interesting as a doll and toy collector to watch people who are not necessarily collectors panic over these. That was very interesting, and obviously we couldn't go anywhere for like 3 or 4 months without hearing about them. So Labubu, you're making it on to my top favorite dolls of the year list. Go you. Don't think you'll be there next year, but that's okay. At number 4, I have to put Raquel Reyes, American Girl's new Girl of the Year doll. This doll has brought so much hope to me. I think it's brought so much hope to other American Girl fans, especially fans of the historical doll line. I thought the connection with Samantha was amazing. I was so excited for this. I have never been excited for an American Girl Girl of the Year doll ever, but I definitely fell for it with Raquel, and again, I'm just so excited for the potential that she has brought to the American Girl doll brand. At number 3, I'm going to have to say the Rare Find dolls from the Barbie Deluxe style line, specifically Midge. Christy's great, but Midge was just a really fun way to kick off the year, and honestly, I feel like all the Midge stuff happened right before everything took a few steps back for our country, in my opinion. But Midge happened first, and like I said, I went to 12 Targets plus 1 to find this doll, and even though I didn't find her on that first day, I still had a great time, and it was so fun communicating with other Barbie collectors trying to find this doll. I think, like I said, it really is a great example of how the doll community can be so fantastic. So I had to put her on the list, and I love her. At number 2, I am putting the Bratz Clueless dolls. Really, Bratz dolls in general, I think, had a fantastic year, but I really think these Clueless Bratz dolls solidified Bratz in an all-new way. I think Barbie is shook. I think Barbie is nervous, but I also think these Bratz might push Barbie to get a little bit better. We will see, but I think these were definitely a huge moment of the year and a defining moment for the iconic Bratz dolls. So had to put it here. So I wanted to put it at number 2. Okay. And now it's time for my number 1. And I mentioned this doll so many times. I think if you didn't assume it, maybe you guessed it, but my number 1 doll of the year, 2025, is 100,000% the Gem and the Holograms doll from TLS Toys. I feel like I've talked about her so much in this wrap-up episode, and what's cool is I would not consider myself a super Gem fan. I honestly, up until a few years ago, I didn't know much more about her than the whole drama with Gem and the Holograms and Barbie and the Rockers. But I thought this doll was so interesting, and it was so interesting to watch people react to her. I think the positive reaction to this doll was so clear. I think she just got people really excited and brought a lot of nostalgia feelings, especially to people who maybe had not thought about Gem in a really long time. I don't know. I just thought it was so cool to see. It was really fun to watch the fans react over her, and I think she's gotten mostly positive reactions, and I love that there's more Gem and the Holograms dolls coming. My biggest hope is that TLS Toys will keep those dolls at a reasonable price, but like I said, this doll, I wouldn't mind paying a little bit more money for because she is so nicely made. She came with so many cool things. The box is fantastic. So I do hope they keep things affordable, but I definitely want to buy at least a few more because I think they are so amazing. And yeah, Gem, definitely, without a doubt, I have been thinking about this for a while. I had a feeling, and I was right. I knew it. When I got this doll, I was instantly like, oh, this is a contender for the best doll of the year. So very excited for Gem and Gem fans all around the world. I can't wait to see what comes next. Next, I'm going to do some predictions and talk about some things that I really hope happen for dolls in 2026. The first one is I really do hope American Girl takes the Girl of the Year line and keeps running with that descendant theme. I am also very hopeful for the 40th anniversary next year for Pleasant Company. I really do have a feeling that Felicity will be coming back. I don't know when, where, how. I really have a feeling, and it would be so cool to also get a Girl of the Year doll who is a descendant of Felicity, so we will see, but I'm definitely hoping for that with American Girl. I also hope the Barbie collaboration continues, but I just want to see fashion packs. I would love to see totally hair Barbie outfit for an American Girl next year, and I think I even said that last year. Still hoping for that. With American Girl, I also think we might see some dolls being retired. I know that Molly is out of stock, and there was an Instagram comment or something, and American Girl responded, and it doesn't sound like Molly is going to be back in stock. We will see, but I mean, who knows? She could also be a contender for this Girl of the Year descendant, and maybe they're going to take some away and then bring them back once those Girl of the Years come out. I don't know. We'll see. I think Bratz are definitely going to have a huge 2026. I think Barbie is shaking, but I also think this might push Mattel to work harder on their Barbie brand, especially when it comes to quality control, quality overall. But if they don't, I mean, Bratz is right there, right next to Barbie, and I think it's totally possible that Bratz could be the best-selling doll of 2026. For predictions, lastly, Labubu. Labubu is either going to completely 120,000% fall off the face of the planet, or maybe Labubu is going to have a comeback. I don't know what that would look like. I think right now the hype is completely dead, and that company is probably pretty nervous. I hope they're planning something super original and unique for whatever Labubu thing comes next, but if that doesn't happen, I think Labubus will totally be forgotten about, but I think Bratzies might have a moment, but if they do, I think that'll also be pretty short-lived. Dolls that I'd like to see, I would love to see a Lara Croft Tomb Raider get a nice collector 1/6, maybe a little bit bigger doll this year, and I want quality. I think the game just got re-released, or there's a new Tomb Raider game. I'm seeing a lot of people talking about Tomb Raider, and I loved those movies, the ones with Angelina Jolie, so good. I played Tomb Raider when I was a kid, and I would love to see a really nice collector doll. I don't care which company does it, but if they do it, they better do it right. I'd also love to see some nicer, high quality 1/6 Power Ranger dolls. You guys, I'm a huge Power Ranger fan, and I know you can get like 1/6 scale like action figures. They're all just plastic. There's no fabric, nothing nice with the dolls. They're literally playthings. But I'd love to see some collector Power Ranger dolls that aren't like $700. Give me something nice. It doesn't have to be that nice, but I want to see a good 1/6 figure Power Ranger doll, at least at some point, even if it's just Kimberly and Aisha or Trini. Would love that. And I'd also like to see a much better holiday Barbie for 2026. Mattel, I think, has gotten a lot of feedback about these dolls this year. Again, so disappointed, and my expectations were already so low. Please don't kill this brand. Please bring it back. Make it campy. Make it gorgeous. I want to see a really nice holiday Barbie. I know, wishful thinking, but come on. It is such an amazing brand of Barbie. So just make her nice. Please just make her nice. And I think that's about it. I mean, this year has been so crazy. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. I celebrated 100 episodes this year. I can't even believe it. This is the season finale of season 4, and this was definitely the most busy and chaotic and hectic season for the Iconic Dollcast. I put out an episode nearly every single week starting in February this year. Never have I ever done that many episodes for 1 year. It was really crazy, but I had such a good time. I'm looking forward to a nice break. I probably won't be back with the show fully until the end of March-ish. Not really sure on that, but I'll definitely still do some check-ins for you guys and make some content. I am trying to create this YouTube channel. Up until just a few months ago, I didn't really know how to use YouTube. Everything that was getting uploaded on this channel was just automatic from when I'm putting my podcast out, but I'm starting to get into it. I think you guys are hopefully enjoying the video content. It's really hard for me to make, and I get so anxious, but here I am. It's just been a busy, crazy year overall with dolls, everything else outside of dolls, but I have had an amazing time, and seriously, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you to all of my incredible guests that came on the show this season. I had so much fun talking with all of you, and this show would not happen without all my guests. The show is not mostly about me, it's mostly about the guests that I have on. So thank you guys so much for coming on the show. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed this really long episode. It was a pain to edit, but it's fine. As always, please follow me on Instagram at Iconic Dollcast. If you want to check out my custom-made Britney Spears dolls, head over to Instagram at Britney Spears Custom Dolls. You can also follow me on TikTok at Britney Spears Dolls. Please, if you're watching on YouTube, follow, subscribe, whatever. It really means everything to me, and I will see you guys next year.